those 2 workshops on our Facebook page this past week, and those are going to be later this month. The first one is October 5th, and you can find our Facebook from our website. And yeah, thanks.
All right, cool. So the first thing is the most standard design pattern for mobile. It's called the ModelViewController. Yes?
Real quick, so to do any of this, you have to have a Mac.
You need to have Xcode running, which means somehow you need to have OS X running. So if you have like a virtual machine that has OS X running somehow, then you're good. Yeah, sorry.
You can still learn.
Yeah, I mean, still good. Yeah, so this is the most like standard design pattern for iOS development. You have your model, which is the data associated to a particular event. You have your view, which is it's like the page that you actually see, and so it responds to how like users interact with it. So if you tap a button, the view will go, hey, here's the controller that's associated with me. This button just got tapped, and then the controller will go to the model that's associated with that button and say, like, hey, call this code, do this sort of thing, and it returns to the controller, like what happened, like what should be changed, and the controller tells the view, hey, here's how you should update yourself, and then the view then updates itself in that specific way. By the way, these slides are on Facebook, and there's a link at the end to the final project, like the final what we're doing today. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So we have our user action goes to the controller goes to the model notifies the controller, and the controller tells the view back to update. Any questions about that? Cool. This.
The view is the UI.
Hmm?
The view is the
Yeah, yeah. The view is like everything that you actually see. So this looks really scary. Trust me, it's not. It's the life cycle of an iOS application. So you have like things that are called and that you override inside of the view controller. So you'll see like view will appear, view did appear, view will disappear, view did disappear. So we can override these methods and we can put code inside. So if you want to if you want the user to see some sort of animation, you will throw inside view did appear. That way, once the screen loads and it's actually on, the user can see it, then you can have something happen. If you want things to happen in the background, like you want to query some database, then you would do that, and you did view will appear, or if you did load, or something like that, and then it'll come back asynchronously, and then we can populate it as we can. So these are kind of just the lifecycle methods. You'll get familiar with them as you do more development. Okay. And then path to mobile. First off, the language is Swift. There is also Objective-C, which was first. Swift is a little bit cleaner and nicer to work with. UIKit, which is your user interface, like everything you see is the UIKit. You have your other frameworks, so your map, your web, your photos. Then there's another thing called persistence and core data. So how can we store all these like things inside the application itself? We can do networking, which is like web services APIs, JSON, and then we have like NS notifications and little extra stuff that we can add in, or push notifications. So yeah, UIKit is, Apple defines it as one of the most crucial frameworks that exist. It is literally everything that you can see in an entire application was done with UIKit. You can make custom views, you can do all sorts of things with it, but everything is built off of that. So after this whole workshop is done, listen to this, because I'm recording it right now, so listen to it again, kind of go through the slides, go to the next iOS workshop. There's an Android workshop also through SEC. Good tools to learn by yourself are Udacity and Ray Windowalk. And then CodePath is a super cool company that will be here in spring doing iOS, and you should definitely apply to them because you will come out of the course feeling like you have a pretty good understanding. Okay, so with that said, there's the link to the project, and we're going to actually go into building. If you could open Xcode, we are going to do a new Xcode project. We are going to click iOS here at the top left. We are going to do single view application. Wait, quick question: whose like window does not look like that? Okay, so he's on Xcode 7, which is no big deal. It should. Sergio will help you. Yeah. So there's different things that are built in. Like we can do a single view application, we can do a game, we can do master detail application, we can now do iMessage applications thanks to iOS 10. But the most basic is a single view application, and everything usually starts from there and we build on from that point. So I'm going to hit next. And then we're going to give it a project name. So like workshop 1. You have the team that you work under. You have your organization name. You have your organization identifier. The bundle ID is just linked so that when you build it, it helps like you can actually get it on your device. Language is Swift. Devices, iPhone. You can set it to iPad if you want to. And then there's these 3 options at the bottom for core data, unit test, and UI test. You can actually, yes. Okay, he'll get you. So you can actually unclick all 3 of these because we don't need any of them. Unit tests are like things that we can run, like do automation testing, so we can actually run stuff against our code, and then check values, check like the results of stuff, and then UI test is like, did this view sort of load? Like, is it apparent on the screen at all? And then core data is used for like, that's another talk. Okay, so next, just save anywhere. Save mine on desktop just because. Okay, so I'm gonna make this big now. It should, let me see what these. Oh, that's really big.
Should we click the thing that says create game repository?
Solid, solid. What's up?
You don't have to create your repository, do that?
No, yeah, you don't need to do a Git repository. That just means like you can integrate Git into your actual app, like into Xcode, and then Xcode can push to the repo and whatnot. Most people don't do that. Just kind of do it through themselves. Okay. So our structure, you see on the far left, and it's kind of hard to see, but you have your project name, so workshop. You have, so you can see all the attributes of the actual project itself. We can see that we're in portrait mode. We can have it work with upside down. We're going to turn landscape and landscape right off, so that means they can't rotate their device. If they do, it just stays in portrait. Okay, and then you can see the status bar style. We can turn it to light. We can leave it the dark status. And then we have our app delegate. And our app delegate kind of like runs. It's like the first thing that gets called. It kind of runs everything in the background. And then you have your ViewController, which is the controller that I was talking about for MVC. And on top of the ViewController is this thing called the content view, which is the view, and then all the data associated inside is the model. So you should see all 3 of that. And then there's the storyboard. And if you're on Xcode 7, it's going to look a lot different. So give me 1 second. So you should see this right here, right? And then at the very bottom left in this little area, you see view as iPhone 6s. We can switch it to the SE. We can switch it to the 4S. So I'm just going to leave it on SE to build for the base phone. And then I'm going to click on it so that the blue little yellow circle there is highlighted blue. I'm going to go over here to the right. Inside the little folded paper thing, there's a thing that says use auto layout. I'm going to turn that off. I'm not going to go into auto layout. That's another time. So this is going to also disable trade variations. What's up? So you're going to click on the actual ViewController object, and then you're going to go over here, and as long as the first paper is clicked, you just unclick use auto layout.
Raise your hand if you need help finding that. We can go around and help you out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you get stuck in anything, just raise your hand. There's like tons of people that are running around helping you. I'm not going to auto layout way too much. We tried that as the first workshop last time. another Xcode 8. It looks like that. Anyone else need like something? So for those of you guys on Xcode 7, if you don't see this thing at the bottom right here, you're gonna click on it, and you're gonna click on this little paper thing right here and auto layout. And if it still doesn't look like that, there's this little arrow down thing. It's called Use the Attributes Inspector. You're gonna click on that. You're gonna click the first one inferred, and you're gonna hit 4.0. As if you do not have like this thing at the bottom. If you have that, you're good to go. You should be good. Xcode 8 messing me up. No, it's just the fact that like it's new. You go to the store.
This gives you more stuff.
I would do it now. It's like a simplest. And if you go later and you open your project, it'll convert everything for you. Size. What? Yeah, size. Yeah, that size is size 1. But if you click on this one, Takashi, if you clicked on that and you went to the file inspector and you clicked on disable auto layout, it should put it to that.
All you do is disable auto layout.
Yeah.
You're on Xcode 7.
Yeah, it's only if you're on Xcode 7. Xcode 8, you just click this thing right here. You don't buy it. Alright, cool. So, this is the lovely storyboard. It makes our prototyping very fast and easy. And then, so, grab right here. This is actually the outline of our ViewController. So if we go over here to this little driver's license-like thing, we can see the class associated to this particular ViewController. And if you look up there in your file inspector, you'll see ViewController.swift, and then since this one's highlighted, you can see the class is of ViewController. So we have linked our storyboard to the particular file that we have. Okay. So if I go over here to the bottom right, we have all the object that we can drag on here. So if I drag on a button, and I hit this little, let me change this to iPhone 5, and I hit run, let that simulator boot up. But that's pretty much all it is to do quick prototyping. You should see the button already on it. In a sec. It should launch the app for you. And there's our button. So now you guys can go build Twitter, right? Oh yeah, I don't know why that thing's there. You should see this crazy thing being printed out. That's just part of Xcode 8. Don't really worry about that too much. Okay. So now that that's done, we're going to actually add a a username label, username text field, password label, password text field, and then 2 buttons onto our screen. So if I go over here to the far right, and I drag this label on.
What's a label?
A label is just any string. A string is just any sentence. So like it can be a word, it can be a letter, like anything that is text. So I'm going to type in username. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to delete that button. And then the same thing, there's our text thing right here. I'm going to drag that on. Line that up as well. Yeah, label is text. The text field is something that you can interact with that is just text field. I'm going to add another label up here. I'm going to leave that one blank for a second. I'm going to add. So if you want to, just drag all these things on here.
Are you able to change the font size?
Yes, we're going to do that in a second. Okay, as soon as all these things are dragged on, we'll do that. Okay, so yeah. Alright, so in order to change the text size, we click on our label, and then all the attributes associated with this object are in the attribute inspector in the far right. So it looks like this little down arrow sort of thing. So we can click that. We can click on this little T next to font. We can choose our particular font we want. I'm going to leave that system. We can click the style, so I'm going to make it bold. And then we can bump up the size to 25. And we can say, ooh, that scooched in really far. Yeah, so I'm going to say, let's do it over here. Yeah, so you can say welcome. And then I can, if it's too big, I can either stretch it out, or I can hit Command equals, and it'll automatically size to fit. There it is. Okay. So now that we have kind of the base design of what we want, we can start actually connecting these things to the controller. So if I hit this double circle right here, it'll show our file and the storyboard thing that we have connected to it. So let me give some space here. And I'm going to drag, click this, hit Control, and drag into this area. I'm going to select Outlet. I'm going to type in username text field.
And when you drag,
Control drag.
Yeah.
Control drag from the text field on your storyboard to the actual file on the right.
okay.
Type UI text field storage weak. Right? So I'll do that one more time. There's that little double circle thing. The top right? Yeah, click that double circle thing.
We need some.
And
Anyone else?
No.
That first moment, when I went left, it's stuff how they did it.
Oh, I just dragged it up on the screen. Yeah, it wasn't. Just be some memory. It's like, wait for the system to like prioritize. Okay, so what we did when we dragged that, we made this reference variable called UsernameTextField. It is of type UITextField, and it is an IV outlet connection to our text field in Storyboard. So what that means is this variable, this reference variable, controls everything that we can do with this username. So we can grab text inside of it as you interact, we can change the background color, all by changing this reference variable in the actual code. Okay, so let's do that again for this text field. And then I'm going to do that again for the two buttons. Yeah, control drag. Yeah. Well, the issue is like when someone says control, everybody switches to command because it's Mac life. Okay, so I'm going to go back to single view, and I'm going to click on my ViewController. So now I can see all four of my outlet connections. Do you guys need more time to do the outlet connections? Okay.
How do you like center your view field?
Like in Storyboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you like click on it, oh, so just the size. You see that thing right there? The blue lines come down?
Oh, not the text field. I mean, like just that thing when you have like the double setup with your phones on the right and like that.
Oh,
image.
yeah, you just gotta scroll.
Yeah, yeah, it's not, yeah. Okay. We good? So if you have not run this yet, iPhone 5S and the play button. Why is this so big? Just see something like that. We good?
Yes, yes.
We ran it with which file?
iPhone 5S.
So you just connected it.
Yeah, I just connected it.
It's showing us.
Okay. So these buttons kind of look bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them looking a little nicer. So this is the viewDidLoad method that I was talking about earlier. Right? So this is what's called first. So I'm going to go inside of here in the override method, and I'm going to say sign up button dot layer dot corner radius equals 5, and then I'm going to say sign up button dot clip to bounds equals true. And I'm also going to go back to Storyboard real quick. I'm going to drag this guy over a little bit. I'm going to give this a background. So over in the attributes on the right with the little down arrow, I'm going to go to the bottom and I see background. Right, currently it's empty. So I'm just going to give it a color of, I'll give it orange. And then I'm going to change the text color to white. Right? I made outlets for the buttons. Yeah. I'm going to drag this out a little bit so that it makes it look a little nicer. And I'm going to do the same thing for here. Background, that light blue. Oh, that is an ugly blue. Hold on. I'll do this blue. And I'm going to change the text color to white. And I'm going to drag it up so it's a little bigger. Okay? So we can change the color of multiple objects by shift clicking. So if I shift click again on all three of these guys, I can change their color to white. And if I wanted to click on the entire view, so if you notice over here on the left I have view, I'm going to change the black background to black. Key coding value compliant? Yeah. So if you get an error that says key value coding compliant, that means that you had an outlet and you deleted it from your controller, but the outlet still exists in Storyboard. So it's still pointing towards this value that thinks exists. So if you, at any point, want to see your connections, you can click on your text field, and there is this little right arrow on the far right that tells you everything you're connected to. So this guy is called UsernameTextField, and it's connected to ViewController. So if we have multiple ones of those, for instance, and you accidentally deleted one, here's where you would delete it to make sure that your app runs. Because if there's a broken connection, the app will not run, it'll crash when the view loads. Okay, so I'm going to go back to ViewController. I'm going to do the same thing I did right here, but for the login button. I want to run it one more time. Okay, so when I changed the quarter radius to 5, I actually rounded out the edges. So I'll go back to this real quick. And by clipping it to the bounds, I said, hey, it has to follow these rules. What's up? Yeah, corner radius. The iPhone 5, just because it's the smallest phone that iOS 10 supports. So usually what you do is you build for the smallest and you scale up. Yeah. The cool part about Xcode 8 though is that it gives you the option to do design specific things for different devices. So like you saw in Storyboard how there was this thing right here, so it says, hey, if we want to, we make something different for just this particular device, which is really cool because that actually hasn't been there before. Okay. Was everyone able to run this? I will go back here.
Change the background of the Segways. Yeah.
You got more, Takashi? And there's one back in the back too.
This question?
Someone in the back had a question also. Yeah. Dude, I don't know yet. I got some pretty cool ideas though. Good. I'm ready. What's up? Oh, I got you. Is everyone ready for me to continue? Okay. Yo, Nikhil. Nikhil.
Does anyone else need help?
Yeah, so there's like things where you can do development for both at the same time, but that's not native. So that's not, yeah, it's not native, so it doesn't have to like let's see what we're talking about. Yeah, I have to take me yeah, the weird part of this though is you can actually split up very basic app and you can use one of those things. Yeah, it's the second one, corrections, and then the third one's going to be so it's going to be kind of stuff. We're talking about other things. Am I good to go now? Am I good? Okay, cool. I'm going to go to the next topic real quick. The next topic is Segways. So this will be very much in Storyboard. We're not going to do anything with CodeWise. So for Storyboard, we're going to go here. We're going to go to the top of our object thing, and there's this thing right here called the ViewController, which is the one that we already have on the screen, right? So that guy's the ViewController. We're going to add a second one now. And ViewControllers are pretty much each page in the app, each unique page. So I'm going to drag on this ViewController. I'm going to put it right here.
You can also type in search for ViewController.
Yeah, there's this filter thing at the bottom right here, and if I type in UI View Controller, there it is. So that might make things easier. And I'm gonna make this background like, I'll make it red. Ooh, that's not red, that's fine. Just so we can distinguish between the two. So one more time, I'm going to go into ViewController, I'm going to drag it on the screen, and then change the color by clicking on it and going to background, and it's under attributes. Okay, so if everybody can just watch this, because this is going to be a little weird. Grab everybody's attention. Okay, so I click on this guy, right? I go to Editor, Embedded in, Navigation Controller. I'll do that one more time. So I click on it, Editor, Embedded in, Navigation Controller. So what that does is it is a stack that we can put UI view controllers on top of. So if we want to navigate into our app like a certain amount of pages, we want to have a way to go backwards without like costing us memory or energy, right? So we want to have like this navigation controller that holds all of our view controllers. So I'm going to click on the login button, and I'm going to control drag it onto navigation controller. When I let go, it's going to say, what action segue do you want? I'm going to say modal. This means that we can now transition to the next page in our app, but we don't have a way to go back unless we, in our code, like actually dismiss this view controller. So if a modal, I'll run in a second. But if you click on this, click on transition, it has a default behavior. I personally like flip horizontal for logins. So what this does is it takes your login page, it's going to flip it, and it's going to do this animation flip, right? And it's going to put our navigation controller as the window. The navigation controller is going to see what its root controller is, which is that red view controller that we have, and it's going to present that. Yes?
My home screen, like the one with the username and password, it has like an extra arrow pointing to the application.
Has an extra arrow. Okay. So if I run this, here's what it's going to look like. If I hit login, it should flip around and present that. So, give me a second. Killing me. Okay, so for a login, we don't necessarily want to go back unless we sign out. That's why we do the modal presentation, because there's no easy way to go like backwards. Okay, so I'm going to drag on one more button onto this guy. Just put it dead center of the screen. I'm going to drag in another view controller. I'm going to make this color, I don't know what this is. Yeah, it's good enough, right? I'm going to control click from my button to this guy, and I'm going to choose push. So what push does is it actually gives us a way to navigate back to a view controller that we came from. So you'll see this back button in our little nav header right here. When it runs, there will be a back button there. We can click that, and it pops it off our navigation controller stack and presents the last one to the top. Okay, so I'm going to run it real quick. Yes, drag it, push. So if I click login, it flips around, gives us that. And if I click this button, it'll push our view on. And then now I have this back button right here where I can go back to the base page. Okay. So since it's about 3 minutes till 6 o'clock, I'm not going to go into animation. I'll go into animation next time. But you guys kind of know how to work with Storyboard, you know how to make views, and you kind of know how to navigate between different views. So there's extra things we can do. So this was a navigation controller, so it means that we can like push stuff on in like one direction. There's another thing called a tab bar controller. And so if you open Facebook, you see that those 5 things at the bottom or 4 things at the bottom. Each of those presents a view controller. Usually it presents a navigation controller, and then we push view controllers on from there. Does that make sense? Okay. So with that said, I'm actually going to end this workshop here. Thank you guys for coming. And by the way, the finished code is on GitHub. So the PowerPoint slides were posted on Facebook. So if you want to click that link at the bottom, you can just download that entire project. And I'll put the recordings up later.
Not bad.
Thank you.